So I wanted to take this time to welcome everybody. Thank you for attending our first ever Fun Friday webinar. Our series is titled Essential Skills for the New Economy because we know that the pandemic is really going to affect employment. We've seen who the essential workers are, who's working type of jobs that are being not as affected, but many of us have been affected. So that's why we chose the topic of unemployment for our first webinar. We do have several other webinars planned on Fridays at noon, and some guest speakers to help us kind of navigate this time and what to expect during that time. So, okay, should get my thingy started here. Okay, so I'm sharing my screen here, and this is going to be our presentation. So there's the flyer. You may have seen it in your teams. So today is our first one, and you can see the next few coming, and we've added some, and they will continue through the rest of the school. I'm your host today, presenting Valerie Beachley, College and Career Specialist, and I'm also here with our job developer, Arlene. You want to say a few words, Arlene?
Hi guys, my name is Arlene Flores. I'm the job developer here with Huntington Beach Adult School. My job is to help support you. I'm built into our CTE program automatically. To reach us, I'm available right now via email. I'll find a way to connect with you. If you go to our Huntington Beach Adult School webpage and click on the Student Support tab, you'll see the job developer. My page is there, as well as a job board that I put up for survival jobs for now.
Thank you so much. So we hope you'll join us for our upcoming webinars, and we're really glad to have you here. Just a few housekeeping. I'm going to have you mute your mic for the moment unless you have a question or comment. You can also type in the chat if you have a question, and we'll answer that. And if you would like to leave your email in the chat, we can follow up with you. We can send you the PowerPoint so you have this information, because there is some live links and email addresses embedded into the PowerPoint. So you'll want those if you need to pursue anything like that. And okay, so.
And guys, while Valerie's presenting, I'm going to be watching the chat. So please put any questions, and I'll make sure that she gets the questions.
So what to do if your employment is affected by COVID-19? We are all aware of the proportion of just people who have been affected either by losing their job or having to stay home to care for a child or having their hours reduced. So we felt it was very important to bring you this information. I got this statistic off of Yahoo Finance today, and their source was the U.S. Department of Labor. And you can see the last week, April 18th, there were 4,427,000 claims filed in the United States. So that is quite a high number, which is, according to Department of Labor, 16 million in the week ending April 11th total. So those 4 million are new claims. Since this started, it's been a total of almost 16 million people applying for unemployment. The unemployment rate in overall is 20%. That's very high due to this pandemic. Last week, 2.7 million California residents have lost their jobs and filed for unemployment in recent weeks. So that's why we wanted to bring you this information to make sure you're accessing benefits that can help you during this time, since so many of us have been affected in this way. So the first step you'll want to do is apply for unemployment. You're going to open a claim, and this is the website here, and this is what you'll see. And this is all about their COVID resources, but you will create an account. This is where you log in, and right here is where you will file your claim. This is the first step. This is your portal to get information. First, to just file a claim. This is where you'll certify your claim every week or so, and then you'll receive a check every 2 weeks. But this is kind of where they will communicate with you if there's a problem. You can ask questions through this. There will be ways to schedule interviews with EDD. So this is kind of like your one-stop shop here for unemployment. This is the phone number. At the end of the webinar, I do have a list of phone numbers that are all in different languages. If English is not your first language, you feel more comfortable speaking in another language, they do have hotlines set up for that also. So who is eligible for unemployment benefits? Typically, it would have been if you were, laid off and you've worked in the last 12 to 18 months. We'll discuss how the pandemic has affected eligibility, how they have opened it up to people who in the past were not eligible. So basically, if your hours were reduced due to the quarantine, you've been separated from your employer during the quarantine, you yourself have been affected by the virus and require medical attention, and any of those can be further explored with their frequently asked questions on the EDD website. I have the link here. So they are recognizing all the different scenarios that have gotten people to this place that will need help financially. So this is what your eligibility criteria are at this time. So once you do get in and you're creating your login, these are kind of the steps. Again, if you want to leave your email in the chat, I will send out this PowerPoint just to kind of give you an overview of what they're going to expect. They're going to need your first and last name, date of birth, social security number. You will be assigned an EDD customer account number. They will ask you some security questions. Make sure that you're checking your email often and making sure none of it is ending up in your junk folder or anything like that. So create your account, then you can log in and file your claim, provide the information they need to determine if you're eligible or not. And if that is, if you're having problems with computer, you're just not really tech savvy, they do have the paper form that you'll have to mail in, but they do have it in English and Spanish if you're, more comfortable with paper and pen type applications. One little note I wanted to make, this is supposed to say CalJobs, it's a link, but I couldn't get it to show up. Sorry about that. But they usually do require you to register your resume with CalJobs within 21 days to remain eligible. I am not 100% sure, I couldn't verify if that has been waived because of what's happening. But it's safe to just do it. If you have a resume, get it into CalJobs, which is accessed through EDD, and you can Google it also. Oh, what I had here was a YouTube video that shows you how to post your resume with CalJobs. So sometimes it really helps to have a video instead of just reading the directions like what I have here. So I wanted to make sure you had a video that showed you how to do that. But it's pretty, pretty standard when you're creating an account, the type of information, like an email account or a bank account, the kind of things they're going to ask you. I also downloaded the apps for my phone just to make sure they would work, but your benefits will be sent out via a Bank of America prepaid card. Some people are receiving checks initially, but then they're transitioning into a Bank of America prepaid card. There's an app to kind of track that. There's an app called UI, Unemployment Insurance Claimant, and then there's a CalJobs app, so you can download those to your phone if that's a little easier for you than the computer, so you can take it with you. When and how will I receive my unemployment? So According to EDD, there is a 3-week turnaround to receive the benefit. I have heard that there has been some delays, but that is the standard. And then you will continue to receive your benefits biweekly. And again, they will be loaded onto a debit card, which I think is really convenient for a lot of people. If you want to change bank information, if it's, they have the link here to change that information, or if you need to change your address so it's mailed to the right place, just be aware that there is a website you can check on that. I have experienced that some people will have a delay if they file under the wrong category. So there's mostly people receive unemployment as a W-2, so an employee. Less common is a 1099 independent contractor, but because of the pandemic, they have allowed people to apply for unemployment who typically weren't eligible. So an independent contractor 1099 can apply. There are instances where you can receive benefits actually being classified as both, but I think when you initially file, you have to pick one or the other, and then you'll have to kind of call to straighten that out. I'll use my son as an example. He's a massage therapist, and he was a W-2 recently, but they couldn't find him. They couldn't find him in the system as a W-2, so they went off older 1099 records. So he's having to update them to show him he actually is a W-2. So there might be some delays if they either cannot verify your identity or your wage info does not match the EDD records. If for some reason you are determined ineligible, just know that you can file an appeal, which is really helpful at this website. And, I always say exhaust all of your rights. Some people might just say, oh, well, I'm not eligible, darn. But, I would say just file an appeal and see what happens. The worst they can say is no. So as I mentioned earlier, there are some special considerations for being eligible for the unemployment, whereas before people were not eligible. The nice thing that they have enacted is that before there would be a 1-week waiting period, so you wouldn't be paid during that week. That has been waived. So the 1-week unpaid waiting period has been waived. You will be paid for that. The work search requirement that we all know that EDD usually requires to continue benefits, that requirement has been waived. Some of you may have heard about the federal Corona Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act, better known as CARES. And that will allow people who qualify, basically if they were affected in their employment because of the virus, to receive an extra $600 in addition to their other benefits, their weekly benefit amount during this pandemic, which became effective the week ending April 11th. And it is retroactive. I know EDD is working really hard to make sure everyone's getting everything that's coming to them. But if you find that there's a discrepancy and you didn't receive it and you're eligible, they will make it retroactive. You might just have to call and get that situated since it is a new law. Sometimes it takes a while to catch up in the implementation. As well as the governor has passed the pandemic unemployment assistance. So again, those who couldn't qualify before are now being included, such as self-employed and business owners. This also includes a 13-week extension in addition to your 26-week benefit time frame. So they've extended it. People have been hit really hard during this pandemic, so I think that's a great benefit the governor has enacted. So there are some other stipulations there, such as you don't qualify for regular benefits in California or another state, or you don't qualify for state disability insurance or paid family leave benefits. So as of, I think it was April 15th. Many of you might have heard the press conference where the governor has extended because the people weren't able to get through. EDD was only open 8 to 12 because of the pandemic, but they are now open 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. 7 days a week. People are still having difficulty getting through, but I know they brought on, I think, 1,500 more state employees to help with the backlog. So hopefully that will relieve some of the bottleneck that people are experiencing getting through. If you are not a citizen, you won't be paid the pandemic unemployment assistance. Certain stipulations there, but there has been a $125 million fund created for undocumented workers. The last I heard, I think it has been exhausted, but you know, there's a chance, hopefully, that that will be, you know, brought forth again for our undocumented population. And that is kind of the CARES Act and the PUA. Those are two programs implemented for unemployment, and some of you might be aware of some other financial relief programs during this time, such as the IRS stimulus checks. I did receive mine, thankfully, but I do know people who have not received theirs yet. And I did put the website here that you can check on your payment. Somehow I skipped where I was. There we go. This website here, you can check on the status of your economic impact payment. And I know for some people who are receiving state disability who don't have to file taxes normally, you can still be eligible. You have to go in as a non-filer. So when you go to this website, you can choose, you know, to check on your status as someone who filed and check on your status as someone who has not filed. So, and these are the amounts you should be expecting to receive with the income requirements. They cap out at $75,000 for individual and $150 for married couples who filed a joint return, and $500 for every child under the age of 17. Another good benefit that people are really relieved to hear about is that the deadline to file taxes moved from April 15th and got extended to July 15th, which also means you have an extension to pay taxes if you owe. So that's a really good thing. With that being said, if people have not filed yet, because of this, they will go by the 2018 tax return for the stimulus check. If you haven't filed for 2019, you should still be okay if you filed in 2018. With the pandemic, either if you've experienced illness yourself due to the virus or you have a family member, you should be able to receive an extra 80 hours of paid sick leave, which expands the paid child care leave if you are having to be at home with kids, if you're ill, if your family members are ill. Definitely we can check out that more. There are also some supportive services that are available through your local OneStop, and I do have the locations on the next slide with phone numbers, and they will help you with applying for unemployment benefits. They will connect you with some job training, and other support services include childcare, food, utility assistance, rent. The sooner you get in, the better, in case they're, you know, it's first come, first serve kind of thing. So that's why we wanted to get this information out to you as soon as possible so you can take advantage of any of this. So that is available, supportive services. And for undocumented workers, as I mentioned, that relief fund has been made available, and they're not eligible to apply for unemployment at this time, but they can apply for state disability, workers' compensation, and the paid family leave. That could change. Things are changing every day. So even as I speak, hopefully this, you know, information isn't outdated. At the time I created it, this was all up to date. So you'll have to bear with me on that. If you plan to attend school or you are attending school while you're collecting unemployment, they will help you with school. And that also used to waive the working requirement to have to look for work, but they do have partnerships with schools on their eligible training provider list, which we are part of. And a lot of people don't know that while you're on unemployment, you can get help going to school. So here's our local OneStops, they're called, in Orange County. The closest one to us is in Garden Grove, and this is the address here and the phone number. And they assist all different types of populations, veterans, youth, unemployed, dislocated workers. They receive government funding for that kind of thing. The next closest would probably be Santa Ana, and then the other one is in Irvine, and these all serve the Orange County area. So I would just call them and tell them your situation and see what they have available. So either EDD or the OneStop will also assist with paying for school. So if that's something you've been wanting to do, it would be a really great time to pursue education during this time, and we're happy to still be online and offering classes, continuing education during this time for people who will need to boost their skills, and because of the changing climate of the workplace, as we know it's changing. And these are the phone numbers for all of the different languages: Vietnamese, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin. If you're having issues creating an account, there's the technical line. Here's the phone number to get through to Bank of America. I forgot what telecert is. I'd have to look that up again, but this I got from a flyer from the local OneStop. If you think you might be eligible for disability insurance, here's the number to get you started, and here is a hotline for paid family leave if you are being affected in that way. So I kind of went through the material pretty quickly, but I did want to take some time to let you know what our next webinar is. Arlene, would you like to share a little bit about that?
I had to unmute myself. Sorry, I had to unmute myself.
That's okay.
Our next presentation next Friday is actually going to come from DaVita. DaVita is one of my hiring employers, and they're going to be having a webinar about resumes and branding yourself. So his format's going to be a little bit different. So we will go ahead and we're going to put the flyer on your Teams so that way you know how to access this workshop. But he is one of the recruiters for DaVita who will be presenting.
So the registration process for this upcoming webinar, which I highly recommend because it's coming from an actual recruiting analyst. He'll help you with your branding on LinkedIn if you don't have one already, cover some resumes, do's and don'ts, and interview do's and don'ts. Coming from someone who hires for a really big company, DaVita, he will also talk about current opportunities that you might be qualified for. And the link to RSVP, which we'll also put in your Teams, they are requiring an RSVP, but we hope that you take advantage of every opportunity, especially coming from us, because we know our students and our population and the kind of things they're going to be needing in the future for the workplace. But this is our next webinar next Friday at 12. We're really glad to be able to offer this, and there is our email information. Please feel free to email us any questions. I'm still the college and career specialist. We're doing these webinars as an additional way to outreach to students, but I am also here to connect with you if you are interested in going to school, continuing your education, identifying different majors, how to apply for college, or how to get into some of our CTE classes that we are still continuing. If we have any students in the webinar, if you'd like to kind of give us how you're adapting to the switch in the online platform, does anyone want to speak to that? You can just unmute your mic.
And say your name and which program.
Okay, you're shy. That's okay. We have the chat too. If you want to chat, again, we will be, if you want to leave your email address, we can email out the PowerPoint. We want to thank you for joining us for our very first ever webinar online live event for Huntington Beach Adult Schools. And we're going to stick around though to answer questions. If you have any questions, if we can't answer them now, we'll definitely get your information and follow up with you. But
thank you so much for attending. We hope this was helpful for you. And again, as a reminder, we are still here. We are still here to help you in any capacity that we can. And we also have our counselors available too.